Good morning. Thank you for joining Dancing with Numbers in Real Life. We are live. This is our first live. I want to thank you all for joining this morning. And I want you to bear with me as I move through this because this is also my first time doing live. And I have Jennie Dundas here from Blue Marble Ice Cream. She has joined me as my first victim, no, I mean my first guest on the show.
Willing
And my name, willingly,
willing victim.
willing victim. I appreciate it. So my name is Tricia Taitt. I'm CEO of FinCore. We are a fractional CFO services company um, based in New York, but we are fully remote. I have been a finance professional for 24 years. I love all things math and numbers, but I'm also passionate about dance and the arts. And so I wrote a book called Dancing with Numbers, Grow a Financially Healthy Business and Choreograph the Life That You Want. And the intention was really to make the language of finance accessible to small business owners. Because part of our mission at FinCore, my company, is to transform the lives of 10,000 business owners by providing financial education, resources, and our CFO services. I wanted to make it more accessible to everyone by providing this book and creating it for the world, and also adding inspirational stories within the book. Now, one of those inspirational stories circles around this wonderful woman, Jennifer Dundas, CEO of Blue Marble Ice Cream, where she shared her journey as an entrepreneur to growing a scoop shop and a wholesale ice cream business. And I want to have her share her story with you. Let me just double check that I am in fact live. Again, everyone, please bear with me because this is our first one and I'm really excited. And I'm a perfectionist like everyone else. So I just want to make sure we are all here and it's all good. All right. We are live. Thank you, Jennie, for being here with me and having this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So, I want to dive right in because your background is super interesting and it's a little bit similar to my background. But for the first, I guess, 25 plus years of your working experience, you were an actress, which I love. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And in 2007, you co-founded Blue Marble Ice Cream, which is New York City's only B Corp certified ice cream company. And since then, Blue Marble has become the East Coast leader in all natural and organic ice creams, holding themselves to the highest level of quality and integrity of sourcing. I love that. And as a B Corp, they measure their success by the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. In 2010, they also launched a nonprofit, Blue Marble Dreams, to create locally owned ice cream shops in Rwanda and Haiti. In 2023, she managed a professional tour of the Rwandan drumming group in Goma. I don't want to mess up the last part of the name, as they offered drumming and dance workshops throughout New York City. This is a wonderful company, wonderful causes and connections to make it an international brand, essentially. So thank you again, Jennifer, for being here. And I want to dive in and first talk about your experience with acting and what lessons did you learn during your experiences with acting or even as a child actress around money that would even make you become an entrepreneur?
Thank you so much for having me, Tricia. I'm delighted to be here. Um, this is a really great question. I started acting when I was 9 years old, professionally, and I was on Broadway when I was 10, and I did my first TV when I was 11. I did my first movie when I was 12, and it
Wow.
kind of fell into acting. I felt, it was like I fell into it, right place, right time kind of a thing. But I was really good at it and I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't something that was pursued like by my parents, for example, like they weren't stage parents. And I think that because of that, and because of the idea of a stage parent, and because of the idea that, oh, you can make money, you can become rich by acting in movies, my mom, who helped manage my, career, basically really shielded me completely from the entire financial piece, because I
Mm,
she felt it wasn't really appropriate for a child to be thinking about working for money. And it was really important to her. I remember her always asking me, "Do you still want to do this? Do you still want to do this?" Every audition I would go on, like, "Are you sure you still want to do this?" Because she was so worried that she would somehow be forcing me. So
right.
the result, like, as a kind of unintended consequence, I didn't actually grow up with any sense of money at all.
Mhm.
And the money went into college savings, and it went sort of into just savings for the future, and it went into paying the expenses of traveling around for auditions and things like that. I was based in Boston, and I was working in New York and LA and Canada. So I didn't get a lot of good lessons, and as a matter of fact, it was really important to me to have pocket money, and it was my understanding and my our arrangement that I didn't use my acting money for pocket money. So when I was 14 years old, I got a job at a local bakery, and I actually had like normal kid teenager jobs throughout my teenage years, because it was really important to me to have my own pocket money from a young age, that was like separate from acting. Isn't that weird? I never have talked about it.
No, I don't think that no, I don't think that that was I don't think that was weird as well. In fact, I remember, um, my mother, my parents not wanting because you're a child, they're like, "You don't need to worry about that stuff right now, like, we are gonna cover your education up until college," or what have you. They didn't wanna involve me in any of those conversations because didn't want me to worry about it, which I think I see that, from now that I'm older, but I also feel like there's an opportunity to teach the child about, the fact that the parent is investing in them and how money works, and I feel like there are opportunities there sometimes.
So interesting. Yeah. And so for in my case, because I was earning all this money, sort of outsized income for a child, it was even
Mhm,
more kind of, I was shielded from it because it didn't feel appropriate somehow. So anyway, I worked in a bakery, I worked in an ice cream shop, and whatever, I did those kind of jobs. And when I went to college, I worked at the bar for a little while. And anyway, I always had these side jobs in addition to the acting career. So I felt like I was scrappy. I was like, my relationship with money was really separate from the acting thing. It was like I loved, making the money, and then you'd get your tips and you'd have your cash. You'd like have your check and you deposit it, as a young person, even as like a
yeah.
14-year-old. In that sense, I loved the relationship between, you work, you get the money, you spend the money, you know, you work some more. But I lived very hand to mouth pretty much forever. I always lived hand to mouth. So I didn't have a good relationship with like saving, for example, or
Mm,
investing, for example. Those kind of things were not things that I was trained on. And my parents didn't really have. My dad was a doctor. My mom was stay-at-home mom, and she got jobs later in life. But they weren't in finance at all, so they didn't
mhm.
see that stuff. And now I have a 14-year-old, and I'm trying to guide him a little bit differently. But they did a great job. But
Yeah, as you grow and as you grow, you learn more. I mean, parents always say there's no manual to parenting, so there's no judgment at all. I mean, I remember I come from a Wall Street finance background, but just because you come from a Wall Street background and you have a business degree doesn't always mean that people are great with their personal finances. I learned that as I got older, and then when I had my stint of pursuing Broadway and dance professionally, I did realize that a lot of actors, dancers, creatives were living sort of that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. And a lot of people were either bartending or catering or nannying, and they were making that, as you call it, side money, but when they were performing professionally, they would treat that money a little differently. I think that that was sort of like their main nest egg for supporting themselves. So what are some of the lessons that you learned from your experience acting or in your childhood that you feel like you brought into your business?
Well, those would not necessarily be financial lessons. Those would
Okay.
be for, teamwork, creativity, ability to pivot, ability to, yeah, like just deal with problems. Because
Problem solving. Yes.
problems, constant problems. And so because I grew up just in the audition circuit, constantly being rejected and but knowing what it felt like to be successful. Also, I had,
Hmm.
I had a resilience, I think, was really useful in business, and like this ability to be like, well, they say I can't do this, but I know I can,
That's right.
like this fire in the belly that I was sort of raised with, that, and I was conditioned to have. And I think you
Right.
really be an energizer bunny to be a successful entrepreneur, particularly in food, particularly in New York City. I mean, it's just like the challenges are insane. And I am so incredibly proud. The thing that I'm most proud of is that it's been 17 years of Blue Marble ice cream, and we are still going
Wow.
in New York City, the hardest city in the world to do business. I mean, it is. Through the pandemic, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but that is the thing I'm most proud of, is our longevity, and the fact that we've been able to maintain our integrity of product throughout the whole thing. And I am telling you,
We're gonna dive into that a little bit more. I remember, I believe I was speaking to you when I was interviewing you for my book, Dancing with Numbers. I remember you told me a story about your dad buying an accounting book of some sort
uh,
when you started your business.
my dad said, everyone in my life was completely freaked out when I said I'm going to start an ice cream company, because I mean, I had a pretty good acting career. I had done very well in my teens and in my 20s, and I, whatever, but I was kind of bored because I wasn't working as much as I was used to. And of course, I'm, like I say, I'm the energizer. I always need a project. Always need something going on. So a friend said, like, let's start an ice cream shop. We've got this great opportunity. I think, and I thought it was a great idea, blah, blah, blah. And my dad, everyone was like, what are you doing? And my dad said, "Uh, I can see that no one can stop you, but I will pay for an accounting class for you." And, he never, I mean, this was a big deal because I'm financially independent for a long time, but he like wanted to give me this as a gift. And I was like, "That's great, Dad. That's great, Dad. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." And I was so wrapped up and in the oh gosh, did I lose you, Trish?
No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
So wrapped up in the momentum of opening and just a million things to going on that I just kept putting it off and putting it off. I never did it.
Mm,
And this is the biggest regret I have about my business
that's
career,
okay.
is that but I learned it through hard knocks. But that would have been
That's how a lot of people learn it.
so.
So he gave you this accounting book and he said,
He
"Here,
gave
figure this out."
No, he didn't give me a
The
book.
course.
I'll pay for you to go to a course. And I just never did it.
That's okay because you figured out something else later on, which I want to jump into. So I'm going to read this from my book. Um Actually, what page are we on? We're on page 90 in the book. Okay. So let's go to that. Since 2007, Jennie D. So now I'm revealing one of the inspirations, one of the inspirational stories in my book. So Jennie D has owned a certified organic ice cream company selling ice cream retail and in a brick and mortar scoop shop in Brooklyn by the pint in wholesale in Whole Foods, other health food groceries, as well as wholesale to restaurants. Around her 10th year in business, Jennie D realized the business was losing a lot of money. So she did a deep dive analysis of every distribution channel and every customer account. She learned that distributing pints of out of state was not profitable for the business. The sales volume for out of state customers was not high enough to fill a truck, and cover the cost of freight, transportation, and everything else that went into that cost of that distribution channel. Therefore, Jenny cut unprofitable out of state customers, got rid of the commercial truck, and instead hired a distributor to transport pints to customers. Talk me through, or talk us through, this decision, because now you had to dive in to numbers.
Absolutely. Well, I got hit hard with having to dive into numbers several years prior when I had an outsourced bookkeeping firm, and then we transitioned to someone in-house, and that person turned out to be a fraud who just didn't know at all what they were. It was awful. So I was like, the only way I can do this is if I just get in there myself, and I learn how to use QuickBooks, and I learn everything. And that's what I did. And I had help from various different people, but ultimately I put my own hands, and I got into the muck, and I whatever.
You
So
got into the ingredients.
got in. Yes, I got in, and it was just, and I still do a lot of my own numbers now because I know how to do it. It's easy. It's anyway. So, and I now I know what everything is all the time. But yeah, I mean, that decision was actually, there's a bigger picture piece to it, which for anyone that's viewing this and is doing any CPG brand as consumer packaged good brand, or there are a lot of different products that fit into this category. You're not going to be profitable until you hit a certain volume. You're not going to really investment in building the brand. It's a brand building exercise. And so, we basically hit this point where we had to hit an inflection point where it was going to be raise money, spend, spend. And then you were going to get enough volume where it was going to go. And it was just really tricky because we had such a high cost of ingredients that our product was competing with other brands who did not have as high costs. So we couldn't have a price tag on the shelf that was as high as we needed it to be because we had to compete on shelf. And we were going into we'd go to trade shows, and we'd get into, whatever region that, because everyone, the minute they taste our ice cream, they're like, this is the best ice cream I've ever tasted. So like, yes, bring it.
And I've tried it. Really good.
Thank you. In Texas, in California, in Illinois, whatever, at trade shows. But then you have to go and you have to sell the product. Like, you have to do a marketing campaign in that town. And we hadn't raised enough money to do that marketing that we needed to do. And I basically had to make a decision. Am I going to raise more capital to do the marketing we have to do to support the sales in the markets where we are? Or I have another option, which is to just kind of pivot the business and go, we just want to have a profitable business.
Right.
Not gonna, it seems like it's getting too high risk to keep putting money in and money into grow when the pint, whatever, the specialty pint, organic pint, whatever you want to call it, artisanal, that particular package size, etc. I mean, we just saw competitors dropping like flies, to be perfectly honest. We just saw people just going out of business one after the other. They do big capital raises, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, they're doing so great. And then all of a sudden they would disappear and go out of business. And,
Hmm.
we really had to do a deep dive sort of personally first, to go, well, what's our goal? Is this just simply an exercise in brand building and we don't care? I mean, I'm not saying these other people didn't care, but like, is it going to be go or bust, whatever that word is? Or do we want to actually sustain the business no matter what? And if we want to, I basically decided I want to sustain the business no matter what. That's my priority. I want to have a business that's alive. And so
Right.
I decided, let me make the changes I have to make to have the business self-sustaining so I don't have to keep raising more capital. And that means being more boutique and not, taking over the entire world. And so
Right.
it was a mindset shift because we had really been very ambitious based on wonderful early success, based on quality of product, based on a lot of things that all signs point to yes. And we were able to raise. And but we were very fortunate in that we also had investors who were supportive of our vision, which was, we want a sustainable company. We want to be able to continue to support the family farms we support, to support the organic agriculture we support. to
And in
stay.
order to do that, you had to be profitable.
In order to do that, we have to stay alive, and in order to stay alive, we have to be profitable. Um, because if we just raise, and grow, we can easily crash and burn like so many others have. So that
Right.
was the motivation. That's kind of the background, bigger picture piece. It wasn't just like, wait a minute, I'm not making money. Like I kind of knew, we knew
Mhm.
part of the plan, but it was more like, let's shift our plan because we see this, you know, going national thing is actually going to take way more capital than what we originally bargained.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so I was, because I had had that incredibly challenging time. It was 2015. It was the hardest year of Blue Marble for sure. It was so hard. It was harder than the pandemic, frankly, where we lost our financial, uh, the people like doing our numbers and everything.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So
What numbers, I'm curious, what numbers did you look at to, like, make the decision to cut certain things?
well, we had to look at our cost of goods for sure, and we were able to get a really great software, that was a manufacturing software that integrates with QuickBooks, and so we were able to really see, like, with every single batch, what is every single end product costing. So we were no longer doing like spreadsheets and like, well, I spent this much, and then I came out with that.
Right.
Really trace, and that was very key. It was
What was the name of the system? Do you remember?
fishbowl inventory manufacturing.
Fish.
And yeah, it was really great for our use. I mean, it hadn't really been used in that much food before, to my knowledge. I sort of had to like retrofit it to us, but I did it. I
Okay.
still use it. But because of that software, I was able to really drill down on cost of goods in a way we hadn't been able to before.
And
And
by the way, I don't mean to cut you off here, but cost of goods, I'm realizing we just use terminology and not everyone knows exactly what that is. Well, what were cost of goods? What are
well, it's
cost of goods generally?
whenever you're selling a product, it's everything that went into that particular product. So it doesn't include
Exactly.
operational expenses like rent and salaries and stuff like that. Those stay the same. You're only spending your cost of goods for the stuff that you're actually making and selling.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah. So I was able to, like, I put in all the cream, all the sugar, all the, strawberry and all the blah, 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 and the packaging and the co-pack fee or whatever. And then I come out with this and it costs X amount on this.
Right.
Ran the product. So I could really be very granular about cost of goods, which was fantastic. And that enabled me, because we offered so many different products. We've got pints, we've got soft serve base. At that time, we still had hard ice cream base. We had 3 gallon tubs. We had 1.3 gallon tubs, like the gelato pan selling into restaurants. Um,
So
so it,
you had a lot of SKUs, and this inventory management system, by the way, this is not a plug for any particular system, but I wanted to just highlight the fact that you leveraged an inventory management system that was easily integratable with your accounting system in order to get that kind of clarity around those direct costs so that you can match it against your pricing and see which of these SKUs are actually profitable or not. And it allowed you to make those decisions.
and it's key that it also had a manufacturing component. So it was manufacturing and inventory. And that's what enabled us to do that. So I could really, whatever, look at reports, look at actual costs. And then I was able to also integrate in, okay, well, that's the cost of good, the product ingredients and what goes in. But then we've got the freight, and we can add
Yes. Yes.
in cold,
Yes.
add the cold storage in, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got the salesperson in that region, got to add them in, so everything. Yeah. So
When we were talking about this story, you got so, like, into it and excited. I was excited for you because you came from wonderful acting and being a creative, and your family being a little concerned about you being an entrepreneur and, oh my gosh, she doesn't have a business background. But through the years, you became very familiar with your numbers, and I wanted to address something that you brought up that was really important from the very beginning. When you are hiring people to help you with the numbers, the accounting people, or outsourced bookkeeping, this is something I share with like every business owner. When you are interviewing to have people support your numbers and your financials, do make sure that they have prior experience in the world of accounting, in the world of financial management. Not only experience, but also schooling, some sort of schooling, because there are sometimes professionals or people that are working and learning on the job, but don't necessarily have the background and the experience. And it's unfortunate that you brought in people early on within your business that weren't able to support you, but they were also not the right fit for you. And I know a lot of business owners get really nervous about first who they're hiring because the numbers are so sensitive and personal, and you want to make sure you're trusting in the right person. But then you feel like you have to take it all back when you don't find the right people. And so I just want to encourage whoever's listening here, who's in the experience of trying to hire CPAs, bookkeepers, CFOs, that do your due diligence. Make sure, of course, first that you feel a level of trust naturally with them, right? And there's a sense of integrity. But also you look at their background, their experience, their academic experience, how many years they've actually been doing bookkeeping, accounting, financial management. And the third important thing I would say is to get a couple of referrals, right? Speak to some of their either former clients or former employers before hiring and bringing them on, so you don't feel ever compelled to take it back onto yourself. Now, I say that and I preface that with, as a business owner, you don't have to know everything, but and if you outsource 80% of the other things that you aren't doing day to day, you should understand at least 20%. And that's what I love about Jennifer's story, is that in the midst of making this decision around what to cut and what to keep within her business, she had enough of an understanding of her business to make these decisions. So whether she had someone making these decisions with her or by herself, she had enough of an understanding of her own business in order to make these decisions. We can talk so much more about all your different transitions and pivots in the business during the pandemic. I think I met you a little bit after the pandemic, when you were growing into multiple other shops. I would love to bring you back on another time. In the interest of time, I just want to savor that story, because I'll bring you back on a different time, because I'd love for you to talk about that in New York City, going into multiple retail spaces and then making other decisions after that. But at this moment, I do want to ask you, how do you dance with your numbers today? You are starting another venture, which we won't dive into, but you've been successful in this venture. How do you dance with your numbers, and compare it between how you dance with your numbers before and how do you dance with your numbers now?
I'm so sorry. Do you hear that loud air conditioning?
I hear it, but it's okay. When
Okay.
you speak over it, I don't really hear it.
Okay, great. Sorry.
That's okay.
So okay, so I just wanted to really quick follow up to something you just said. I just want to
Okay.
note, we had a great outsourced bookkeeping company when we were getting our wholesale business going. So I just want to make sure I don't disparage.
Awesome.
We're terrific. It was the person that I brought in. And my big thing I did wrong was we did not have good enough references, and they didn't call us back. And so the reference piece,
Ah,
really important what you just said. Don't just look at someone's resume. Don't just let them charm you in an interview. Really pin down those references. So anyway,
mhm.
um, so oh gosh, Tricia. So I don't know what to say. Like, can you just say what I said before? Because
I will. I will.
it
I will. I will. Let's do it. Let's do it.
question
So
before, and I said I can never say it as well as I said it before. I couldn't even believe I said it.
that's okay. That's okay. So when I interviewed Jenny for my book, We were having such a wonderful conversation. And so at the end, I asked every one of the business owners, how do you dance with your numbers compared to how do you dance with your numbers in the beginning of your business? And she said, in the beginning of my business, I was not on the same dance floor. I was not even at the party. Before, I didn't even know there was a party. I didn't get the invite. That was before. And now I'm the host. I love sending out the invitations and I'm playing the music.
I stand by that. I totally, yeah. I think I've learned so much. I have had to learn so much. If I could do it all over again, I would have gone to that. I would have dropped everything and gone to that accounting class my dad offered me. Um, and so that would be my number one advice to people is really, you're not going to be, no one is spared from having to know your numbers. Eventually it will come for you. Let it, you know, let it not be in an emergency situation. Like, let it be something you, and it's really fun. I mean, I love it. I love that aspect of the business. I love because numbers all tell a story. And it's really
Mhm.
true. They say that, but it's really true. They tell the story of the business. And so you want to know what that is. And kind of you can plan better. There's just I think every business owner should be familiar with their numbers, full stop. It should never be, oh, I don't do that. I mean, maybe it's not everyone has the same degree of facility with kind of wrapping your head around it, but like I'm no, no brain surgeon, like I'm not a physicist, I'm an actress. I feel like if I can do it, most everyone can do it. So I encourage people to dance with their numbers.
I love that. So I want to thank you. See, Jennifer, look how quickly this went. I had a wonderful conversation with you. Thank you for being on my first LinkedIn Live. I'm super excited about it. It's called Dancing with Numbers in Real Life. We're going to do it a couple times a month to start off with the intention of it being a weekly series where we have these conversations with entrepreneurs who have literally had a great journey with their numbers, realizing that they can be fun, engaging, and leveraging them to make real decisions for their business. Again, I am the host, Tricia Taitt. I'm CEO of FinCore. We're a fractional CFO services company. I have a passion for math, numbers, and I have a mission to transform the lives of 10,000 business owners by providing financial education, resources like this, and conversations like this, as well as our fractional CFO services. So thank you again, Jennifer, for joining us on this conversation. Good luck in your new venture, and I hope that you will join us again
I would be honored.
when you start the new venture.
Thank you. It would be my pleasure. Thank you so much, Trisha. Always great to talk to you. We could just like talk all day. So
Yep, absolutely. Have a great